Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a massive sixth form Q&A. I'm splitting this video into two parts. So part one, so today's video, is all about UCAS and academics and exams, and then the second part will be about friendship drama, relationship drama, mental health, boys, all of that. So I hope you guys enjoy today's video. And yeah, let's get started. Do you have any personal statement advice? I feel I have nothing to write about. So my teacher gave us a really good way of structuring our personal statement. The first thing you have to think about is your motivation. Why do you want to study this particular course? For example, you could write, my motivation to study dentistry stems from, and then talk a little bit about why you want to study dentistry. Secondly, exploration. What have you done? What have you found out about a course? So in this section, you write about your work experience, relevant volunteering, maybe competitions that you've done, books that you've read, events that you've been to. Basically, this should be like the largest section of your personal statement and what you're dedicating the most characters towards. And then lastly, suitability. Why are you the right person for this course? So taking dentistry as an example, you could talk about how dentists need to be good communicators and then link that to where you have shown good communication skills. For example, public speaking. I would say don't worry about the word count as well. At the start, it can be like really daunting to think, oh my god, 4,000 characters, but trust me, you'll fill up the characters pretty quickly, and you can always bring the word count down if you need to. It's not that big a deal. What made you choose medicine? I will be answering this question in detail in a full video very soon. As cringy as this is going to sound, I live for science. I love science so much, and I love learning as much as I can about the human body. When I was younger, I would, without fail, every single day read my encyclopedia before I went to bed. I think I'd been doing that since like the age of 6, and I was gifted an encyclopedia, I think in 2012, by a friend, about the human body, and I think this was the book that started it all. I used to love reading about the different organs in the body, and at the time actually I had eczema, so I would read about eczema in that book, and I would see like the diagrams of the skin and the different layers, and I don't know, it just made me feel like, oh yeah, like this is a normal problem, it's pretty common. I think reading about my problems in books has been something I've always done. Like even now, I will always go to the library, go to the health section and just read about different conditions, because I think it's pretty interesting how so many different factors affect the way our body functions, and I think it's my constant desire to learn about how our bodies adapt to different environments that really makes me want to study medicine. Have you done an interview before? If so, how did you find it? I've never done a job interview, however, I have done an interview to be a senior school prefect. I didn't get this one. It was a pretty bad interview because I had to do it online instead of face-to-face. I had COVID and I had like all the COVID symptoms. I had a really bad cough, a very high temperature. I couldn't string a sentence together. Basically I was a mess, so there's no way that interview was going well. And I've also done an interview to get into medical school. In the UK, you have to sit an interview before they will accept you onto their medical course for basically determining whether you're a suitable person for the course or not. I think the hardest thing with interviews is trying to manage your emotions. For me, I'm a fast talker by nature. It's really that adrenaline that like pushes me through the interview, and oh my god, I had to slow my speech down so much. Like every 3 to 4 words I would have to take a pause because the interviewers otherwise wouldn't be able to understand what I was saying. I would also say that when it comes to interviews, you gotta practice. What I noticed was that the questions that came up in my school prefect interview when I was doing practice for my MMIs were very similar, and I realized, oh my god, I did so many wrong things in that interview. So I suppose I learned from my mistakes. What was your easiest subject in 6th form? What was your hardest? Easiest subject was by far maths, for the simple reason that this year, because of COVID, we only had to do one module, so I've never had to do mechanics, I've never had to do statistics. I also had a friend who was very good at maths, and so anytime I needed help especially when it came to the integration, differentiation questions. I would just send them to him on Snapchat and he'd help me. He'd send me his work solutions. I also had a very good maths teacher and he was so calm, so composed. So if I ever had any questions, I could always just ask him. My hardest subject was probably biology. I mentioned earlier how I love learning about the body. That is true. But then with biology, especially when it comes to exams, it's like it's never enough. You always need to try and apply your knowledge. So that's what I struggled with a lot, especially at the start of the year. Can you give me some UCAT advice? I'm going to sit my UCAT this summer and I don't know where to start. Oh boy, I hated this test. God, even that like word UCAT, no. I hated it so much. I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is to use online resources like Medify or MedEntry because it's an online exam. You can't really learn the techniques from a book because you're not simulating that experience. The second thing I would say is make sure you're learning from your mistakes. I don't think I did this very well, to be honest, but unless you're really learning from your mistakes and trying not to make those same mistakes again, the UCAT isn't going to be an easy exam. You gotta really reflect on why you're getting questions wrong and identify your weak points. Also, don't spend too much time on sections that you're good at. Spend more time on sections that you are weaker at. So for me, I spent a lot of time on quantitative reasoning because I was so bad at it. Despite the fact that I just said maths was my easiest subject, for some reason I couldn't do basic QR. But as I did more and more questions, it eventually got really easy and it was actually my highest scoring section in the UCAT, which I'm very proud of. Can you give me some A-level note-taking tips? Firstly, condense your notes. Please don't be one of those people that just writes down every single thing. You don't need to know every single thing. I really liked to use my textbook and then I would go to the end of the textbook and if there was a summary, just use the summary. If not, then I would really just skim read, see where the keywords were and write those down. Remember, the more notes you have, the more flashcards you have, the more stuff you have to go through, and I guarantee some of it isn't even relevant anyway. I would use revision guides as well. They're pretty useful because they're usually a lot smaller than textbooks, and even see if you can find older students' notes online. You might have to buy them. Usually people sell notes pretty cheaply. Lastly, don't be one of those people that just leaves note-taking to like the last month before the exam. That's not going to help. It's really just going to cause lots of stress. I would say doing notes throughout the year is a lot better because it's fresher in your head. I mean, imagine you're in June, you've got like a few weeks till your exam and you're still making notes or you're only starting on notes. You really want to have your notes done by maybe 1 to 2 months before the exam. What do you recommend doing every day after school? Only one thing, and it is eat. From personal experience, on days when I wouldn't eat when I came home, I would get so angry and so annoyed at everything. I think the term is hangry, and at the same time I just wouldn't be able to concentrate on any schoolwork. I would really just procrastinate. Looking back, I think that was such a stupid thing to do. Like, I'd have lunch at 1 o'clock in school and then the next time I would have a meal would be 7 or 8 o'clock. So you can imagine like 6 to 7 hours of not eating anything. And I'm really young as well and I need to study. Like, it's just not a good combination. I don't do that as much anymore. Sometimes I just genuinely don't feel like eating because I've had a large lunch. But usually like my go-to foods when I come home are a warm drink, like English tea, chai, even warm milk, and then something to actually eat, so toast, cereal bars. I like to make frozen food sometimes, like waffles or waffle fries. Cereal also works. I would come home and I'd literally just have a bowl of Cocoa Pops or those what are they called, like shreddies, but they're cinnamon flavored, like cinnamon toast crunch kind of cereal, and it was so nice and pretty filling as well. If you or people you knew moved to different sixth forms, did you remain friends? I didn't move sixth form, neither did any of my friends. However, one of my friends moved from another school to my school, and she said that she really just tries to catch up with her friends during the Christmas break, half term, Halloween, holidays, because it can be really difficult, especially when you're both going into sixth form. You don't really know each other's timetables anymore. It can be difficult to find time. She also said that once she moved sixth form, she did drift apart from a few friends, and I think that's really natural. I mean, you're not seeing each other every day, so like you're not going to be able to meet up as frequently. There may not be as many things to talk about. It can sometimes even get a bit awkward. How did you get into a good routine? I don't really think I have a good routine. I just kind of listen to my body and do what it wants. On some days I might feel like the most energetic, enthusiastic, happy person on earth, and I just want to do everything. I feel super productive, and then at the end of the day I go to bed feeling like, yeah, I've actually accomplished something. And other days I just feel miserable. My body just wants to stay in bed. I just want to stay in bed. I just want to watch movies and watch Netflix and literally sleep. I know it's not possible to always be able to do that, especially with exams and other commitments. So I would say discipline really helps. I used to set a time for me to start my homework. So I would say like by 5:30 I should have started my homework. And I think that is probably the easiest way to build a routine, just kind of giving yourself markers. So like by 5 o'clock I should have started, by 8 o'clock I should have finished, by 10 o'clock I should have gone to bed. I think it takes something like 70 days for a habit to stick, but doing it like that and really just listening to your body, those are the two best ways I think of starting a routine and sticking to it. What do I do if I do not understand a topic? Number one, use your textbooks. Usually textbooks have like all the information that you need to know, and if they don't, then ask your teacher. If they haven't explained it very well, then use YouTube. There are so many videos on YouTube explaining really difficult concepts in such simple ways. I think I would not have been able to survive doing 1 year of A-level physics had I not used Khan Academy and other videos on YouTube. Like there's one guy who makes A-level physics videos, and those two channels really helped me. Especially when maybe I was too embarrassed to talk to my teacher, or if the physics textbook I was using wasn't really helping. What is your favorite memory of sixth form? Leaving? Okay, that might be 90% true, but I would say that my favorite memory of sixth form was prom. We call it formal here, so I'm just going to use formal because it sounds weird if I say prom. I think just getting dressed in like nice fancy clothing, seeing everybody else who was like dressed up, wearing makeup. It was like the first proper party where there weren't any COVID restrictions that I had been to in like 2 years. Yeah, it was such a good night. So that was definitely my favorite memory. Somebody also asked what was my worst memory. I think if I could go back in time, I would just tell myself to not be so anxious, because obviously it's not a very good thing to be in a constant state of anxiety, and that's how my body was for like a good few months. I want to say at least a good 6 months. My body was just so stressed, and I wish I could go back and tell myself like, you don't have to be that stressed, because ultimately it has really affected my physical health. It's affected my energy, my mood, and my relationship with food. All of that has changed, and it stems from that anxiety. I also wish I could go back and tell myself that things will work out, and yeah, I might lose friends along the way. Yes, people might get really annoyed at me. They might not understand what I'm going through, but as long as I'm doing everything for myself, and as long as I'm taking care of myself, it'll all work out. Like, I just wish I could go back and make so many different changes to the way I handled situations. But yeah, that's probably like the worst memory I have, just being constantly anxious and worried and stressed. So that is the end of part 1. Kind of a dull ending, but on a happier note, I will be making a part 2 to this video, and part 2, the questions are a lot more interesting, so stay tuned for that. If you want to watch more of this style of content, make sure you're subscribed. Thank you so much for watching. Please stay safe, and I will see you very soon for another video. Bye!